Mere conservatism.
I can't think of a better analogy than the situation as far as the news cycle and the different things that are happening right now than a roller coaster. I mean, golly, and I don't mean in a good sense either. Okay, so this is Mere Conservatism, and we went the whole route because David chose a almost prophetic illustration of what people are feeling. People feel like they're on a roller coaster ride.
Well, it's kind of, but we're on a roller coaster ride. The drop started in November, and it's just been going down since then.
Well, there have been curves,
so
though.
Shouldn't there curves? Yes, curves, yes, but it's mostly downhill. So when does it start going up, Cleve? That's what I want to know.
I think we all do. Well, President Biden ordered U.S. intelligence officials to investigate whether the coronavirus leaked out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
What a conspiracy theorist. Boot him off Twitter. Get him off Facebook. Censor him.
Oh, I've been going up and down my social media feed, and everybody, the folks on our side, conservatives, have all been doing a great big I told you so. And I mean, why not? The good news about this is that the states and other people are wanting to take action about this. Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt was on Fox and Friends, and he said there's no doubt in his mind where the COVID-19 came from.
China is responsible for this and ought to be held accountable for unleashing this global pandemic on the world. And so in the last couple of weeks, we've been able to effectuate service on a number of defendants, including the Wuhan Virology Lab, to get answers.
There's some states that are getting together saying, hey, we're ready to take some legal action because this cost lives, money, and everything else, and China needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, so there's a few levels, like most things, to talk about when it comes to this. This specific tact here is important because China is a geopolitical foe.
Definitely.
They are our enemy. This is a club with which to beat them into submission with. So when it comes to the sources of this virus and how it was handled, this could be such a big tool used by the United States and the rest of the world to get China in line because they have been crossing lines all over the place.
Oh, my goodness.
And if we find out that it released from a lab and we find out that they knew about it in November and that they didn't tell anybody for 3 months and that they strong-armed the WHO into telling everybody that it didn't transmit human to human all the way up and through January.
Right.
And various other lies that they got WHO to repeat for them. If we can find that out, then we can say you're responsible for millions of deaths across the world and something like 600,000 deaths in just the United States.
And that's an important thing because my point, this is not an academic discussion. All right, this is a situation where there was general harm and damage caused by this foreign nation, and Biden's not going to hold them accountable for it. So it's going to behoove somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Biden right now could really be turning the screws on China if he didn't love China.
If he wasn't in their pocket.
Right.
Okay.
He could really use this. Do you know what Trump would be doing with this ammunition when it comes to China? He would eat their lunch.
I mean,
and I so wish he was president right now so he could be doing that.
For this reason, you're right. I mean, this is just another example of why he is so missed and the administration is so missed because they would be, good God, they would be all over China and about this matter.
And I don't know. I don't know what your opinion is on this. I think I probably know what it is actually, but I'm not sure if China weaponized this and released it on purpose. I really don't think that they did. But I do think that they did it accidentally because they made mistakes at their lab. Maybe their standards aren't good and they have bad practices and things like that at the lab. And I certainly think, and I definitely believe, and I think it's clear, even if it didn't release from a lab, I think this is true, that they lied about the virus for months and months, which led to lots and lots of death.
This is why we should not only sue China, but I think we need to sue who? Okay.
Sue who?
We need to sue the World Health Organization because they're complicit in this as well.
Yeah.
Their lack of action, their lack of candor, and even their efforts to cover up for China also make them, to me, complicit.
Well, and that's
what happened.
And that's something that Trump did that I wish was still in effect, which is he basically said the WHO is not a thing anymore.
We're back in now, aren't we?
Yeah, we're back in because of Biden. But Trump, I believe, pulled funding and just said, you guys are not, we're not using you and all that stuff. And that's really, they should be punished for their part in this.
Yeah, and so that's why it behooves now the states, unfortunately, to do what they can to keep this matter to the front, to take action, even if it goes, again, all the way up to the Supreme Court, to show they have standing to sue. And so I'm just proud that the states were doing it. And I told you this. I said the states
are going to have to do it.
They're going to have to do it. And the Senate can't do it. The House can't do it. The states are going to have to.
Well, and the other part of this, Cleve, is what we mentioned before, which is a year ago, when you said this, you were censored. You couldn't say.
Right.
I mean, Tom Cotton came out and said there's a possibility that this came from a lab, and he was excoriated by the media for furthering a racist conspiracy theory that had been debunked. But now it's okay to talk about it. It's okay for Joe Biden to say, yeah, we're looking into it. And by the way, all the media people, they're coming out and they're admitting it. They're saying exactly what we all knew was the case, which is the only reason they said that this wasn't true is because Donald Trump said it.
And people like Tom Cotton said it.
Yeah. Tom Cotton is a liar, so when he said it, we just assumed it was a lie. Maybe we shouldn't have done that, but when somebody just lies all the time, we can't take their word for it. Don't take their word for it. You could have done a news story. You could have done your job and interviewed people and try to get to the bottom of it.
David, to me, the media, even now, with their finally coming to terms with the fact that this was a viable possibility that it did leak from China, the media is simply trying to cover themselves because as more information comes out, we're going to find some really damning things that will come out, I think, from this investigation into what happened. Again, I don't necessarily think they did it deliberately, but let's face it, the cultivation of these kind of viruses are eventually for purposes of biological warfare. I just think this fell out before they intended to. I really believe that.
And China will have a lot of answering to do. The media. It's been a long time since they've had any credibility, but they are reinforcing almost daily why they don't have any. And this story and the way they're treating it is one of those reasons. It's infuriating to me that a year ago, social media would block your account.
That's right.
If you said this kind of thing.
Yeah, they did. And one of them, which one of them, is it Facebook or Twitter now that have said, we're going to cease blocking now information about the virus leak because of the recent things that have come out. It's enough to make you want to throw something at somebody.
Yes, it's bad. And these social media companies are doing the work of the left. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say the government. At the time, the government was headed by Trump, supposedly. He was the president. There was the deep state and all that stuff. These social media companies and the traditional media companies in many cases they're carrying the water and they're doing the work of the government. This is basically government censorship, what they did, because they're doing the government's bidding. Yes, it's a private company doing it, technically. But they're doing it at the behest of the government. It may as well be government censorship.
Hey, I call it that. Now, the only person who has more egg on his face than the people in the media and President Biden is Dr. Fauci. Okay. Several media outlets obtained some of the medical advisor to the president's emails. That was Fauci, by the way, emails between January and June 20th. Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul, the bulldog, I like to call him, had been accusing Dr. Fauci of being a hypocrite for a long time, and he said the same thing on Fox News about it.
He admits in private what he won't say in public. And this is a big deal because if he would at least say he made a mistake, there might be some consideration. But he's still denying that we funded the Wuhan lab, gain of function research, or that they were doing it, or that it was an unwise decision.
Those emails show that Fauci knew this was a effort to not weaponize, but to change the function of this virus in a way to make it more contagious.
Yeah.
And it's emails saying that. So he's in trouble. He should be.
Yeah, there's still some questions about exactly the money trail and how it all works, but this is enough of this has been exposed at this point that we will get to the bottom of it. I really do believe. But
this is the guy that was supposed to be the guru that you could trust. He was the second Messiah. Everything he said was nothing but pure and true and scientific. And now we're finding out what you and I think many of us already knew. The guy's a hack.
Turns out he's just a politician.
Yes, he's just a hack. In other words, he had skin in the game. He had to protect himself. Because it may turn out that he is complicit in funding the development of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, basically, he had to make it seem like, I'm still credible.
Yeah.
And my goodness.
I believe, if you don't know what gain of function research is, I believe basically what they do is they take these viruses and they make them more infectious.
Yes.
In other words, they make them easier for humans to catch.
Yeah, more contagious, actually.
And more contagious. I heard they add things like yeast to them and stuff like that to make them more sticky, and it's interesting.
We've had scientists already say that the way this virus behaves, it does not comport to a natural production of this thing.
And you see that in the emails that Dr. Fauci got. And Dr. Fauci was saying publicly that it was debunked and there's no way this was made in the lab because they've looked at it and they can tell that it's occurring naturally. That was a lie. That was not a mistake. That was actually a lie. We know that because we see his emails now that he knew that he was being told by people that parts of this virus, when you look at it closely enough, seem to be manufactured. And the reason they do this research is because they eventually want to figure out a cure for this thing or a way to treat this thing. So they make it really infectious. It's basically a way to study it. And so the idea of what happened is that they were working on making this super infectious and that it got out of control. Somebody walked out of the lab with it, and they ended up spreading it in Wuhan, and that's the beginning of the story.
Yeah, so the man whose word was taken to determine the extent of lockdowns, to determine the use of face masks, to determine the use of how much distance is socially distanced enough, the man whose credibility determined all that turns out to be a liar, basically.
Yep, he's a liar, and he's just a bureaucrat. He's just a politician. He's not even a doctor. He's not even a scientist.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be a scientist in name, but the stuff that he was saying isn't science stuff.
No.
It's bureaucracy stuff. It's stuff to protect the institution that he works for. These aren't scientific developments and things like that he's talking about and repeating. Mm-hmm. He's just the CDC and Dr. Fauci in many of these cases, they're just stabbing at the dark.
Thank you.
When they talk about masks and when they talk about how being 6 feet away, that came out of their rear ends. They're just stabbing at the dark. But these were treated, his words were treated as a medical expert, professional. It was worse than that. It was a facade.
His words were treated as if they were sacrosanct. In other words, there was no possibility that he could be saying something that was not the complete 100% undiluted truth.
Might as well have been the Pope.
And here's the thing. It's to me, it's a great example, David, of why we should question climate change, why we should question anything, because he is a perfect example of how scientists, not science, but how scientists can be corrupted in their research, in their materials, in their reports, and in their theories. Mm-hmm. I mean, because scientists, I think most people have been trying to make as if they were like priests in white jackets. Yeah. So Fauci...
And the left too, Cleve, they want to act like a lot of they talk about democracy a lot, and they want to act like they like that. First of all, democracy is overrated. I say again and again and again. However, they actually don't like democracy. That's not what they're interested in. They don't want everybody to vote and get a say. They want experts to get the say. What the left really wants is to be ruled by experts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want elected officials to make decisions on behalf of people who they work for, who elected them, and take into consideration lots of factors that we care about. I care about a whole lot of things other than just what the science says about how a disease behaves. I
Right.
care. There's a lot of other things I care about too, and I want all those things to be considered when policy is made. But the left just wants experts to be in charge. They want supposed people who know things to rule your life.
They want people, and that's, you put it well, they want people that will help them to be able to control your behavior, your actions justifiably, in the sense that we're ruling your life because we can save your life.
Come on, they're scientists. They know what they're talking about. Well, they're people, so they don't always know what they're talking about. And that's one of the things that got me the most about this coronavirus thing, Cleve, is that nobody would say, I don't know. None of them would say, I don't know.
No humility.
And the truth is, almost nobody knew anything.
Right.
And the reason, I'm not mad at them about that. I'm saying that they didn't know anything because it was a new virus. Nobody knew
That's
stuff
why it was
about
called novel. Okay.
That's a novel virus. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that it's in paperback, okay? It means that it's new. So people didn't know things, but they acted like they knew things.
Yeah.
And they ruled our lives based
Arrogance.
on things that they didn't actually know.
Yeah,
and
arrogance.
I resent that.
Yeah, arrogance, totally. Now, getting back to the states now, there's another issue that we're going to have to depend upon the states to do. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott, bless his heart, he's taking action. He's taking action at the U.S.-Mexico border, saying the Biden administration is ignoring the surge of migrants overcrowding border facilities in his state, and that the president is making it worse with new border policies. Governor Abbott made these remarks on Fox News' Hannity, talking about the disaster declaration that he has made for 34 counties along the U.S.-Mexico border.
We're about to change the way that Texas addresses the challenges on the border, and we're going to start by helping these 34 counties respond by increasing arrests.
All right. I mean, do you hear what he's saying? He's saying, since
it's a start, I guess.
Since the federal government won't do its job, which is to actually police and secure the borders, we're going to have to do it, basically. Now, that's going to be interesting. This is where the rubber meets the road. He's saying
he has to.
Right. He's saying, this is supposed to be federal government's province to do this. But if they don't do it, and it means harm to the citizens of the state that I lead, then I've got to take action. And this is going to be a very interesting development. You watch and see.
It reminds me a little bit about what Arizona did about a decade ago. You remember that law they had
about that.
How they were supposed to check immigration status of people if they suspected they might be here illegally.
Right.
And it was castigated as racial profiling and racist and all this stuff. And the people who poorly understood the law basically said that. But it was eventually struck down. Mm-hmm. They couldn't do it because it was decided that was a federal issue that the feds had to handle. Right. The states weren't allowed to. So I'm interested to see if something similar here happens with Texas or if this is a special case. My guess is that Biden administration is probably going to let them do this, because they actually do have a problem at the border that they don't want to deal with. Yeah,
but it's a problem they want. Here's the thing. They've been counting, when I say they want it, they have been using the media, who is, again, complicit in not covering what's happening at the border, not demanding that Biden answer certain questions. So they're wanting as many people as possible to get across that border. Yeah. This is their aim, and other people, including Abbott, have said this. They want this flood. They need this surge.
They think they're getting voters. They want that.
Yes.
Now, but I don't think that they want a lot of the problems that come along with that.
Well, they don't. The problems are not being reported, so they don't care about that. That's why Biden doesn't want to go down there. That's why Kamala can't go down there, because if they go down there, then the cameras have to follow them.
The cameras go with them. Well, that's why I'm saying I think that they're okay. They might be okay with Texas doing this, because it might stop some of the problems without them actually having to go down to the border and do something about it. I don't know.
No. You have a point, but I actually think they may indeed want Texas to do this, not with the idea of them being able to solve the problem. Then they can create Governor Abbott in Texas as the new boogeymen who are now going after the poor, hapless women and children, simply desiring a better life. So in other words, and the media will help them. The media will, because they've been trying to find ways to attack Texas anyway. So in doing the right thing, the media will portray this as an effort by Texas to take away the authority of the federal government and hurt these youngins. Anyway,
it's an apartheid state now. That's what they're going to say. They love that. They love the apartheid state.
Oh, that's their favorite statement. Major meat processing company JBS is finally back online from a cyber ransom attack the White House believes is connected to Russia.
Really?
Duh. Texas Republican Congressman Pat Fallon was on Fox's Your World with Neil Cavuto, and he's calling for tougher legal consequences on those who commit cyber attacks on critical infrastructure.
We want to define exactly what the critical infrastructure meant so we could actually try these folks and get a conviction, and then up the penalties 30 years to life instead of just a year in prison, and then also have sanctions for governments that allow this to happen and facilitate it.
Now,
yes. I have another idea.
What's that?
Maybe this is wrong. Just hear me out.
I'll hear you out.
What if we hit them back?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. If
a war is what they want,
if the Trump administration were in office, that would have been done a long time ago.
And I'm not even talking about necessarily a cyber attack back. I'm talking about drone them. Look,
I don't think you can drone them. They can't drone them, but I think a cyber attack back at you, I think would definitely be a very reasonable response. Yeah,
it's not good.
No.
And when the pipeline was hacked and the response, we talked about this specifically, and the response was lukewarm, to say the least. That was a signal to people that America's going to take this.
Yes. Not just this, anything. To tell you the truth,
they're inviting more cyber attacks.
We're patsies. Nobody. It's sort of like under Obama. None of our adversaries had any respect for us. Iran, North Korea, and everything, they just joked. Even Russia, Putin had no respect whatsoever for Obama. But now they have a man in office who not only they don't have any respect for, but they know he's a puppet that doesn't have any real decision making in his own mind.
Yeah.
So
I think it's good if our enemies fear us a little bit. They certainly don't.
They have to. In other words, we don't have to be feared as to being aggressor. We need to be feared as somebody. Right. We just have to say our interests when they're at stake, we don't play. And I want to tell you, whatever the complaints we had about Trump, you brought this out before. He had the mindset of a boss. Okay, I'm not going to play with you. You mess with us. I mean, he even told North Korea that when Kim Jong-un was playing games and everything. He basically said,
my button's bigger.
And literally, basically, we could wipe you off the planet. Yeah. Now, a lot of people, you don't talk like that. You don't say things like that. Did you know how quiet North Korea got after a while under the Trump administration? So the long story short, nobody has any respect for us. And right now, the cyber attacks, which of course Russia will say, I can't control what criminals do, even in our territory. Mm-hmm. These Russian criminals. There's no way that they're connected with Putin or anything that we desire.
Well, you better control them because guess what? We're coming after you.
You're going to pay a price, and Trump would have done that and did do that, by the way, in dealing with them with some other issues. The thing is, they got somebody in office now that they don't have to fear, David, and that's scary.
Nobody's afraid of. I was going to say a corpse, but nobody's afraid of a mostly dead human.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing:
he's just not really all there. I
don't even think he's in their thinking because he's not. Everything that's coming out is not him doing it. He's obeying his handlers. What they're not afraid of are the progressives and the lefts, whose ideology and naive nature about things, they don't have any reason at all to fear these people who actually believe that all the world just wants to get along if everybody just goes green. So
it's not true. The world wants to rule you.
Yes, especially one part of the world named China. Mm-hmm. I mean, more so than Russia, which Putin is a hard guy. I think he's a dangerous dude, but I still say China, 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 China. And China has taken our measure over the last short while, the first portion of this man's presidency. And I got to tell you, it's not encouraging. Mm-mm. It's not encouraging. It's another reason, again, why, you don't like Trump's style. You don't like the way he talks. You don't like that he's brash. But my goodness, he was the first leader that we've had in quite a long time that our enemies say, we don't like him, but we will respect him. Mm-hmm. Because we know when this guy and his administration said something, they actually mean it.
Still waiting for that roller coaster to go back up.
Well, here's the thing. The good news, and it's kind of buried in everything we've been talking about, is I think people in this country are waking up and starting to fight back. I think about the Virginia principal who's fighting against being fired from his job because he refused to use transgendered language in talking about the students there. And he's going to sue. And other people are doing things like that. I mean, they're standing up.
We haven't talked much about the transgender thing today, and I don't know how much time we have, but this is a major flashpoint in our culture that, Cleve, remember way back when homosexual marriage was made the law of the land?
I do.
By the Supreme Court, and basically what we were saying, what we said is that it kind of erased the differences between men and women, is basically what it does. And here we see very shortly after that the fruition of that, and the left is pushing hard. They're not even being sly about it and saying, they used to say things like, oh, that's never going to happen. You guys are just thinking you're being crazy, because we would think about the extreme result of some of these policies. Well, now a lot of them are here, and the left is celebrating them and pushing them really hard. We got Ron DeSantis in Florida saying, nuh-uh, I'm going to sign this transgender bill where boys can't play in girls' sports,
biological
because
boys.
I want to protect our boys. And guess what? If the NCAA doesn't like it, whatever. Yeah, the cost is not worth bowing.
That's what I mean. Standing up. That's what I mean.
That's awesome, and that's what we need to see. Not every governor has done that. Kristi Noem didn't do that. She chickened out at the last minute when it came to that kind of thing. Ron DeSantis is doing exactly the right thing. And by the way, that whole thing is kind of about girls' sports, but really what Ron DeSantis is saying when he does things like this, and what we're saying on the right, is there is a difference between boys and girls. There is not this blurred line that the left is trying to tell you that there's no difference, and boys can become girls and girls can become boys, and gender is malleable and doesn't really mean anything, and now you can change your sex and stuff like that. Ron DeSantis is saying, no, there are boys and there are girls. That is actually much bigger than the issue of female sports.
And it's
a much bigger issue.
Science is on our side in that discussion as well. David, that is going to have to conclude this particular broadcast today. As always, if they want to hear our stumblings about the topic,
check out Apple Podcasts on iTunes. You can also get us on YouTube and Facebook.
Definitely on Facebook. We'd like to get your comments as well. David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Mere Conservatism. Keep the faith. It's not over with yet.